Hello and welcome to another video presentation from the Practice Protection Committee. I'm Pat Bailey, Medical Director for Advocacy in the DC office, and I'm joined today again by Dr. Mark Ader, who today is going to speak to us about lessons learned and key documents that we need to have available for our families. We all know that in this last year, we've had a tremendous amount of uncertainty, and though we don't like to think about these things, we do need to be prepared or have things prepared for others if there's a circumstance where we're disabled or we otherwise become so ill or incapacitated that folks need to get a hold of our important documents. So Mark, thank you for joining us. Really think this is an important topic and very timely.
Well, thanks, Pat. And this is another item that came up in the past year because we're around, we're doing our jobs, we're doing everything we can to help everybody else, and we've had so many people we know that all of a sudden they come down with various stages of an illness, and this one's really very scary and very acute, and it got us to talking about what are those things that we really need to do to have in line, just so you don't have to struggle about that. And I really feel that it's important for you and it's important for your family and significant others to really be able to grab your personal and professional information, have access to it if any emergent situation does arise. And really, you have to put these documents together when you're obviously in a good, healthy state, and you have to designate the surrogates because it's going to save a lot of time and anguish, and making sure that your directions are followed is very key. I mean, it's a comforting thing for you because if you become ill or incapacitated in every way, you want to make sure everything's done right. And really, we have the advantage now is that we can digitalize a lot of this so to make it easy. So the first thing you have to do is identify a key individual to be your durable power of attorney. And you have to have that individual, you have to have some contingents prioritized. But if you can't act on it, somebody else has got to be able to handle your personal affairs if you can't, if you're not there. And then if we're talking about estates and you may as well at the same time make sure that you have your executor of your estate, your trustees, the contingents, all kind of lined up. Again, the best time to do this is not when you're really ill or not when you're really facing stress. It's sort of like you repair the roof on a sunny day, not when it's pouring rain outside. You need basic documents. Everybody knows that you need a will, or you should have a will, and it should be up to date. But the important things are really your trust documents. I mean, many of us do have certain assets and all, and you want them directed. You're going to have letters of instruction, but the trust documents are really going to control this. And the will is basically going to refer to the trust documents if it's been well executed for you by an estate attorney. The real key to all your account information, especially today, are your passwords. And most people have a different password for every account, or you really should for security purposes, for almost every account that you have. And they're probably best kept in a master file of your passwords, which is heavily password protected. And whoever your surrogate is really needs that password to your master file, then passwords to your computer, to your phones, to secure hard drives, other devices, to be able to get at that information if you're unable to. The banking information, your credit cards. Now remember, you probably have accrued so many miles and so many benefits on these cards that have a lot of value, and somebody's got to be able to have access to be able to utilize them. Your mailboxes, your entire web presence is password protected. and should be protected by your surrogate to make sure everything is appropriate. Cloud storage. I mean, how many of us keep all of our pictures up in the cloud, uh, documents, files? You have to have those passwords. And then, of course, to other accounts that people don't generally even think about is how much is in your HSA or what other benefits do you have? And just by going through some of these other accounts and passwords in that master account would be a key for your surrogates to be able to help you out. And of course, the other part is to have the key information, the contact information for your accountant, who can put a lot of things together, your attorney, your insurance brokers, advisors, and so on. So you should really make a list of all your financial assets and your debts. You should have a list of your bank accounts, your brokerage accounts, and whether it's in a brick and mortar place or online, your bonds, all your stock certificates, your retirement accounts. I mean, you can go through this list, and we should probably post this up on our website here in terms of keeping this up as a guide. People will keep valuables in safety deposit boxes. Really make a note of where those keys are and accesses. And here's an important point is that consider sharing your access to your safety deposit box with your child or your executor, because that will allow them rapid access to it should something happen to you and you become incapacitated and you're not totally locked out of the contents of that box. And then for those you may have a charitable foundation, make sure it has a succession plan. Your insurance policies, if you have any of the insurance policies through work, sometimes those will just show up on pay stubs. Your real estate holdings, your titles, your deeds for property, for automobiles, boats, your cemetery deed. All that really should be, available, and you should have access to that, whether it's scanned in and it's online or whether it's a physical document, but people should know how to get to this. Tax returns for your last 3 years are vital. Your accountant probably has them, but in case there are any questions that come up. Your key business documents, and this is important should something happen to you, your partnership agreements, your ownership details, your contracts. The big thing is your accounts receivable, all your outstanding funds. Very important to have access to that. The leases, the corporate assets, everything that you see here on the list, especially the tax return and the retirement resources and jointly owned property throughout the business. And of course, your individual life documents, your marriage licenses, any death certificates, birth certificates, family histories that you want to be able to have passed on in some way with legacy papers or and any notation of unresolved litigation. So your people, certainly your surrogates do not get surprised. We all know this. The last two is that a healthcare power of attorney is very important. At those times when you cannot make a decision for yourself, we know it cannot be assumed, and an advance directive in order to be able to help guide your care. So as I went through and kind of tried to call out the key documents, it's not anything we really want to think about. But just over the past year and just seeing the suddenness with which things can happen. And now life is much more constant than a few file folders. We're not keeping our pictures in photo albums anymore. They're up in a cloud someplace and certainly don't want to be lost, from a legacy for your family. And we know that things can really happen suddenly. And if you're prepared for this, I think it can really ease a lot of stress, and especially times now have been very stressful. And whether they'll go back to a more normal state or not, it's always good to really have this preparation in place. So Pat, that's what I came up with in terms of doing it. As I said, we can certainly list this up on our website in kind of a tabular form for people to use almost as a checklist and guide. But it's really important to try to organize this. It takes a lot off your mind and certainly will help take a lot off your family's mind and those you really care about.
So Mark, thanks. This is very, very good information. And as I said, very timely in the current circumstances. One thing that I don't think people think about as often is how frequently or under what circumstances they need to go and revisit things like their will. And for example, the probate law can vary significantly from state to state. And so in addition to when you have a major life change, marital change, birth of a child, et cetera, moving from state to state, different employment, that would necessitate you going and revisiting some of these issues. What other circumstances or what timeline do you generally look at as important to go and just peruse through this and make sure that you're up to date?
Well, any life changes, as you mentioned, Pat, very important. And as you mentioned, state laws are different and who can be included as a surrogate for a state may vary from state to state. So anytime you do that, I think the will needs to be updated. Certainly as we have life passage events, whether it's births or deaths, the will should be updated. The trust agreement should be updated. And I think our financial circumstances and situations really mitigate that. You should really go back and take a look at least every 5 years on your trust, if not a little bit sooner on there. And of course, it all depends upon your health as well. And as you may have some different health problems, that may also trigger a relook at what your estate documents are.
Great. Well, as Mark mentioned, we will be posting these slides with the video, and then we'll also be providing a checklist, if you will, that will be on the Practice Protection Committee's website as well. We thank you for joining us today for this presentation, and we look forward to seeing you at the next. Good day.